You're such an asshole!
Subject line: the Clarey Test on Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Aaron, how much would it cost to get a Clarey Test video on this trio of classical philosophers? You cover a lot of classical and historical characters. Don't think you've covered these guys yet. I don't think I have either. If you did, I apologize. Yeah, no, they don't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I haven't. I'm guessing Socrates will do best here, by the way. Thanks, Brian. He made the pain. Says, I'm guessing Socrates will do the best being a Peloponnesian war vet and having no formal education. I know Aristotle meant not fair as well. Being at Plato's Academy from 18 to 31. Wow. Sounds like Jeffrey Tucker over at the Auburn. That's an inside joke among economists. Although the fact he chilled with Alexander the Great might count for something in your book. Maybe Plato will fall in between. Not to be too much of a prick, but when I read Worthless, I recall there's a part that said, rather than majoring in philosophy, you can read Socrates. He didn't write anything down. Oh, see, you're going to do that to me, are you? You're going to be, well, he technically did, right? I know. Actually, I didn't. But Plato is the guy who compiled his dialogues. Remember to correct that in any new editions. Yeah, like I'm going to revise my books. Yeah. Uh-huh. I think somewhere the haters were going berserk about it. Yeah, let him hate. All right, let's get cracking because I don't have a lot of time here. Socrates. Come on, Clarey. Socrates. Wiki. I like how it's just like one word. Okay, Socrates, 470 to 399 BC, 71 years of age, was a classical Greek Athenian philosopher credited as one of the founders of Western philosophy and as being the first moral philosopher of the Western ethical tradition of thought. An enigmatic figure, he made no writings. It is known chiefly through the accounts of classical writers writing after his lifetime, particularly his students Plato and Xenophon. Man, they had cool names back then. Other sources include the contemporaneous Antithines, Aristippus, and some other peoples whose names start with vowels. Plato's dialogues among the early life. Okay, the year of the birth of Socrates stated as assumed date or estimate, given the fact that anything in ancient history is part sometimes relying on arguments stemming from the inexact period He was born at Alopeci and belonged to the tribe Antiochus. His father was Sophroniscus, a sculptor or stonesman. His mother was a midwife named Phanerete. Socrates married Xanthippe, who was especially remembered for having an undesirable temperament. She bore him 3 sons. Socrates first worked as a stonemason. He's got a real job there. Real working experience. I'm trying to figure out if he came from wealth. And there's a tradition in antiquity not credited by modern scholarship that Socrates crafted the statues of the Charites, which stood near the Acropolis until the 2nd century AD. The youths were not allowed to enter the agora. Socrates frequented these shops in order to converse with the merchants. Most notable among them was Simon the shoemaker. I'm going to go, he didn't come from wealth, but he wasn't poor either. His dad was a skilled tradesman. And we're going way back. He wasn't part of the nobility, but I know. It was a democracy or whatever they had down in Athens. So I'm going to say he didn't come from wealth, but he wasn't starving either. Military service. He was in the military. So he worked stone, masonry, and he was in the military. So he has real world working experience. All right. For a time, Socrates fulfilled the role of hoplite, participating in the Peloponnesian War, a conflict which stretched intermittently over a period spanning 431 to 404 BC. Several of Plato's dialogues refer to Socrates' military service. I'm just seeing what he did. During 406, he participated as a member of the Boule. Bait. Abandoned the slain as survivors. Seized for the debate. General Seam, arrest of Leon. They're going through all the different type of stuff he did. Okay. He has real world working experience. He was a mason. He didn't major in stupid shit. And what did he do? He was a philosopher. What was the Epistates. What's an epistate? Is that like a lawyer? He's like an administrator. Okay. Refusing to escape Socratic method. I'm just kidding. He was a philosopher. Here's the issue. Is that a real job? What do you do? Well, he got killed. I think if he did... Is this the guy that drank the hemlock? Oh, he got executed. All right. He probably gets a score of 0, the perfect score. He has real-world working experience. He didn't major in stupid stuff because they didn't have majors back then. Don't tell me if they had a school. He did work for the city, but his main deal was philosophy. What was it? Did he come from all? No. Does he have real-world working experience? Yes. Did he major in stupid stuff? No. What did he do as a philosopher and did it privately? He gets a perfect score. Perfect score. 0 for Socrates. All right. Let's go to, who's the next one? Plato. Let's do Plato. The entry is predominantly about his history and philosophy. It's not neatly organized like all Wikipedia entries about a modern American politician. Like, he's part Jewish and Romanian descent. All right. Plato. Ba 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 ba. Along with his teacher Socrates and his most famous student Aristotle, Plato laid the foundations of Western philosophy and science. Alfred North Whitehead once noted, "The safest general characterization of the European philosophical tradition is that it consists of a series of footnotes to Plato. This and that, that and that, innovative written dialogue and dialectic forms, and political flows of republic and laws, more Greek words and all that." Early life. Little is known about Plato's early life and education. The philosopher came from one of the wealthiest and most politically active family in Athens. Point against him. Ancient sources describe him as a bright, though modest boy who excelled in his studies. His father contributed all which was necessary to give his son a good education. Therefore, Plato must have been instructed in grammar, music, gymnastics, and philosophy by some of the most distinguished teachers of his era. Here's the problem. Back then, they didn't really necessarily have engineering and computer programming and all that. Any degree was a good degree. But he sounds like such a pampered little brat. No matter what he wrote, I'm going to give him a point against it because he got everything bought and paid for. Had a free ride through. This sounds like a kid who went to Harvard. Does he have any real-world working experience? Birth and family. Name, education. Hard work and study. Must have been in grammar, gymnastics. Most distinguished teacher of his time. Yeah, but did he work? Was he a stonemason? Plato, I met Jeremiah in Egypt, was influenced by his ideas. So he's traveling to Egypt. Plato may have traveled in Italy, Sicily, Egypt, and Cyrene. Said to have to return to Athens at the age of 40. Plato founded one of the earliest known organized schools of civilization on a plot of land in the grove of Academius. The academy was a larger... So he's an original academius, the original academian. Throughout his later life, Plato became entangled with politics in the city of Syracuse. I'm not liking this guy. He travels around, he jet sets. He sounds like Justin Trudeau minus the communism. I'm surprised he even came up with concepts of Western civilization. From rich parents, majored in worthless crap. Went to the Harvard of ancient Greece. Traveled around like a playboy, no real jobs, and then went and studied and then he got involved in politics. 4. Would I like to have a beer with Socrates? Yes. Would I like to have a beer with Plato? No. Final one, Aristotle. Right now, every philosopher who's actually studied these guys in way more detail. Aristotle. Boy, they all look the same. Mops of hair and beards. Philosopher and scientist born in the city of Stagira. in the north of classical Greece. Along with Plato, Aristotle is considered the father of Western philosophy, which inherited most of its entire lexicon from his teachings, including problems and methods of inquiry, so influencing almost all forms of knowledge. This is where philosophy loses me. It's like, isn't it common sense? I don't know if that has to be codified. Oh, do you believe in this? It's like economics. Do you believe the Keynesian theory or the Austrian? It's like, no, I believe in fucking reality. And I don't, what do you mean? What, spend more money? Is that Keynesian? Okay, I didn't know that was a philosophy. I didn't know it was a school of thought. I thought it was just a dumbass fucking opinion that was misinformed and totally not educated by empirical data. Sorry, slamming on economics. Little is known about his life. His father died when he was a child. Okay, so he came up under poverty. That's good. He was brought up by a guardian at 17 or 18 years of age. He joined Plato's academy in Athens and remained there until the age of 37. Oh my God, a fucking academic. He covered many subjects: physics, zoology, biology, metaphysics, logic, ethics, aesthetics, poetry, theater, rhetoric, So he was a perpetual student, a professional student. Shortly after Plato died, Aristotle left Athens, and then at the request of Philip II of Macedon, tutored Alexander the Great beginning in 343 BC. Well, that's good. He's a teacher. Teaching Alexander gave Aristotle many opportunities. He established a library in the Lyceum, which helped to produce many of his hundreds of books, which were papyrus scrolls. The fact that Aristotle was a pupil of Plato contributed to his former views of Platonism. But following Plato's death, Aristotle immersed himself in empirical studies and shifted from Platoism to empiricism. All right, good. He believed all concepts of knowledge were ultimately based on perception. God almighty, the hairs you guys split in philosophy. Well, is there really there? I don't have time for your shit right now. Aristotle's view on natural sciences represented the groundwork underlying many of his works. Okay, all right. Life. The traditional story about his departure records that he was disappointed with the academy's direction after the control was passed to Plato's nephews, Speusippus. Although it is possible he feared the anti-Macedonian sentiment in Athens at the time and left before Plato died. Who's this? Socrates. I'm sorry, it seems like these guys just hung out and bummed around with each other, and I'm like, where's the food coming from? So far, Socrates is the only one that worked. Yes, he went and hung out with another academic. That's not work. To the court of his friend Hermias of Arternius in Asia Minor after the death of Hermias, Aristotle traveled with his pupil Theophrastus to the island of Lesbos. I'm not kidding. Lesbos. Not kidding, guys. The islands of Lesbos. Where together they researched the botany and the zoology of the island and its sheltered lagoon. Well, who paid them? Head of the Royal Academy. Gave lessons only to Alexander, Ptolemy. By 335 BC, Aristotle returned to Athens, establishing his own school. Okay, so he was an academic. When did he die? 335. He's been teaching this entire time. Piety prompting him to flee his mother's estate. All right, when did he die? Born 322, 335, so that's 13 years. He sounds like an academic. Doesn't sound like he came from wealth, so that's not his fault. Then he never had any real-world working experience. He was an academic the entire time, remained an academic. He didn't major in any... Well, he majored... Let's grant him this. He majored in everything, so I'm going to grant him that. He gets a score of 2. He didn't major in stupid stuff. He majored in everything. And he didn't come from wealth. The rest of it, he just stuck in academia. Don't give me the historical context of like, well, you see, back in those days, who fed him? How did he... He wasn't slabbing no stones. He wasn't chiseling no rocks. He wasn't cutting down no trees. Aristotle. No, I don't care to hang out with him either. I would not care to hang out with Plato or Aristotle. They didn't work unless someone else, some historian who knows Greek history better than I do, which is all of you, Unless I saw that this guy did some real fucking work, Plato and Aristotle just sat there and looked, well, is this an apple? Oh, but you see, I don't perceive it to be an apple, Aristotle. It is your perception of my perception of seeing the apple. Mind blown. I think maybe back then it was a little bit more serious discussion of philosophy, not your modern day American philosophy graduate. You see, man, perception is reality, dude. And I think that it's just all the white people, rich people's fault, man. Anyway, yeah, so Aristotle gets a 2. So Plato gets a 4, the worst score possible. Aristotle gets a 2, but I'm still not impressed. The only one I'd hang out with would be Socrates. It's the only one. No one other wanted to kill him. He was the only real guy there. All right. That is my completely ignorant view on the 3 greatest philosophers. I'm sure everyone's going to correct me down below. And please do. If one of these guys worked, I'll change it. But right now, it seems like a lot of people with fucking fig leaves in their hair drinking the vino and eating goat cheese. And I'm like, who's working? Like, who's working? Hello? Anybody working? All right, that's it. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.